Hello, so today we have got a short one-off story today, so we finished the Iron Man yesterday. We're going to read Two Giants by Michael Foreman. Okay, and I'll show you the pictures as I'm reading along. So, once, long ago, two giants lived in a beautiful country. In summer it was warm, and in winter the land was even more beautiful under snow. Each day the giants walked together among the mountains and through the forest, taking care not to step on the trees. Birds made nests in their beards, and everywhere the giants went, thrushes and nightingales sang. One day, while paddling in the sea, the two giants found a pink shell. The shell was very bright, and both giants admired it. "It will look lovely on a string around my neck," said the giant called Boris. "Oh no, it will be on a string round my neck," said Sam, the other giant, "and it will look better there." For the first time in their lives, they began to argue. And as they did, the sun went behind a cloud, and the cloud became bigger and blacker. The wind blew and blew, and the waves and clouds grew and grew. It began to rain. The more the giants argued, the colder the day became. The waves swept higher and higher up the beach. Boris and Sam began hurriedly pulling on their socks. Before they could put their shoes on, a huge wave completely covered the beach. The wave swept away the shoes and the shell. The giants were furious and threw stones at each other as they ran towards the mountains to escape the flood. Soon the whole country was covered by water, except for the tops of two mountains, which became the only islands in a wide, cold sea. Boris lived in one, and Sam in the other. It was cold. They liked snow, but it never snowed. Winter followed winter. The giants forgot how lovely the summers used to be. Each day was just dull and terribly cold. They grew more angry than ever, and instead of stones, they now threw huge rocks at each other. On Mondays, Sam would throw a rock at Boris. On Tuesdays, Boris would throw a rock at Sam. On Wednesdays, it was Sam's turn to throw again, and so on, every day except Sundays, every week. After both giants had been struck many times on the ear and the nose and the tops of their heads, their anger knew no limits. The sea was dotted with rocks, which the giants had thrown, and one day Sam decided to use these rocks as giant stepping stones. He waited until Boris was asleep, then picked up his huge stone club and climbed out of his mountain. He planned to reach the other island, hit Boris on the head, and make him sleep all day and miss his turn to throw a rock. Sam leapt onto the first rock, then he leapt out onto the second rock. As Sam reached the third rock, Boris opened one giant eye. He saw Sam, snatched his club, and whirling it round his head, jumped out of his mountain and began leaping from rock to rock towards his enemy. The whole world shook as the two giants charged towards each other. Suddenly, both giants stopped. Sam looked at the feet of Boris. Boris looked at the feet of Sam. Each giant had one black and white sock and one red and blue sock. They stared at their odd socks for a long time. Gradually, they remembered the day the sea had covered the land. In their haste to escape the flood, the giants had got their socks mixed. Now they could not even remember what they had been fighting about. They could only recall the years they had been friends. They dropped their clubs into the sea and laughed and danced. When they returned to their islands, each found a small white flower and felt the sun warm on his shoulders. The sea began to recede. Flowers grew where the water had been. The birds returned to the islands. soon the two mountains were separated by nothing but a valley of trees. The country was large and beautiful once more. Sam and Boris sat among the flowers, and sometimes a grasshopper would jump onto Sam's ear, or a butterfly would land on Boris's nose, and birds would sit on the tops of their heads amidst the hair and flowers. The giants were happy. The seasons came and went as before. Sometimes the giants strode about their country, deep with grass or leaves or snow. Sometimes they made giant footprints in the sand by the sea. Sometimes they just lay in the woods, which were full of birds and marigolds. Whatever they did, they always wore odd socks. Even when one of them had a new pair, he always gave one sock to the other giant, just in case. Okay, lovely story.